back KCR's call to the farmers of India, to the youngsters of India. Yes, don't be pessimistic, be optimistic. Time is coming.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on CNBC TV 18. I'm Shireen Bhan. Rural distress seems to have played a huge role in the assembly elections in key states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. In fact, in rural Rajasthan, the BJP lost 79 seats. The biggest problem of outgoing CM Vasundhara Raje faced in this election was the vicious debt trap that farmers of the state find themselves caught in. It's the same story that's playing out in Madhya Pradesh as well. The BJP's tally in rural Madhya Pradesh was down 43 seats. Remember, India's agrarian economy is plagued by falling output prices, declining incomes and increased variation in agricultural production. According to the National Sample Survey report that mapped income, expenditure and indebtedness of agricultural households in India in 2013, the income of almost 70% of farm households is less than their consumption expenditure. The interministerial panel headed by Ashok Dalwai to help find ways to boost farm incomes by 2022 noted, and I quote, the strategy for doubling farmers' income encompasses a higher productivity at cost efficiency and enabling the farmer to capture maximum value. The question, though, is how do you arrive at that? How do you find the road to be able to get to that? While the launch of an electronic national agriculture market, or ENAM, the Model Contract Farming Act and a hike in minimum support prices have been steps in the right direction, recent farmer unrest proves that we still have a long road to fixing the issues faced by India's farming community. And with the general elections around the corner, the challenge for the government is not just to ensure that the rural economy is back on track, but also that the unrest caused by the distress does not spill over to other sectors of the economy. Joining us now on this show, Ashok Dalwai, the chairman of the Dalwai Committee, which is an interministerial panel formed by the centre to look at ways to double farmers' income by 2022. Also with us on the program, Yogendra Yadav, the president of Swaraj India, Jatin Singh, founder of SkyMet Weather, Amit Vatsayan of EY. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mr. Dalwai, before I talk to you about the over 300 recommendations that your report has suggested, sir, let me ask you a categorical question. Post the electoral setback for the BJP, a lot of speculation building up that perhaps we could see a national loan waiver being announced for farmers. Is there any consideration of that, sir?
At least I'm not aware of such a proposal. And as all of us know, Government of India has always been very clear that there shall be no waiver from the central government. And it's a matter of state subject, and if the states are interested, they can go ahead with that. And the matter stands where it is. And government is extremely clear about its policies. It is wanting to put on a sustainable basis the growth of agriculture sector with farmer as the core. The difference is that so far we had been chasing commodities, but today we would like to improve the situation of the farmer in terms of welfare. And one of the important criteria of welfare is to enhance his income. And the entire policy package of Government of India over the last 4.5 years is to turn around the agriculture sector from production centricity to income centricity. Now, all the interventions being made are around this, and that shall continue to be sustained. Okay, so categorical assertion coming in from you that at this point in time, there is no proposal with your ministry to look at the possibility of a central loan waiver. Yes, that's what I would like to say. Okay, let me bring in Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra Yadav, you've read the report that Mr. Dalwai has put together. As I pointed out, more than 300 recommendations. The report, of course, was submitted in August of 2017. The focus on income, and that clearly has to be the road forward. But what do you believe are the current shortcomings that need to be addressed by way of intervention?
One word on the report, Shireen. I think it's an excellent report. I've had occasion to read it, a very good report, but I have a complaint. The complaint is that this government announces that within 6 years we are going to double the income. Having announced it, then it sets up a committee. And the committee obviously takes time, produces wonderful report, but the country's farmers need more than a wonderful report. The committee gave solid recommendations in August 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. how many of those recommendations have been implemented. And when the committee gives final recommendation, I'm told about a month or so, it's still not in the public domain. As a citizen, I want to know what was recommended, what has been acted upon. Okay. Now to come back to the main question that you've asked. The one thing we need to remember is that loan waiver is not the first and foremost demand of farmers' movement. Yeah. Our first and foremost demand is exactly what Mr. Dalwai said, income, assured income, regular income, and some mechanism through which this income can be guaranteed. Currently, yes, this government has talked about income, has said that we would go beyond production to producer. Lovely words. That's exactly what I want to hear. But I also want something to be done for it. Nothing has been done for it. And that's why when structurally the farmer has been ignored, there is an anger. And that is when farmers are saying, at least do two things for us before you demit office. One, a legislation, which is pending in the Lok Sabha, on guaranteed minimum support price as a legal guarantee. And second, a one-time loan waiver. I know, just one quick thought, while this government says they will not do loan waiver, but in the past, central governments have done loan waivers, so there's nothing legal about it. And second, it so happens that this government is headed by a prime minister who goes around this country promising loan waivers in Uttar Pradesh, in Gujarat, no, not in Gujarat, in Karnataka. So, if that's such poor economics, why does the head of this government keep promising it in other parts of the country? Well, that's a question farmers want to know and answer.
Well, that is an answer that Mr. Dalwai cannot help us with, but he has categorically stated that at least from an agriculture ministry's point of view, no central loan waiver proposal is on his table or his ministry's table just yet. But on the larger point, Mr. Dalwai, that was being made before I bring Amit and Jatin into the conversation, that was being made by Yogendra Yadav. Of the 300-odd recommendations in your report, runs across 2,000-odd pages, sir. What has been acted upon to ensure that we actually get to that business of doubling farm income by 2022? And is it really a realistic expectation any longer, sir? Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, I would first like to thank Professor Yogendra for his compliments, and I personally value his observations. And as regards the report and its implementation, I would like to clarify today that when this committee was set up in 2016 April, immediately after the budgetary announcement by the finance minister, the Minister of Agriculture was very clear, and he told me personally that as you sit down to write and submit your report, we would like you to also recommend parallelly several suggestions so that this government can start implementing them. And I'm happy to say that over the last 2 years, several recommendations that we made parallel to the working on a report have been accepted by the government. In fact, the budget 2017, budget 2018 contain a lot of recommendations which we had made. They've all been converted into policies and programs. In fact, the major emphasis has been on the post-production. For example, we wanted the market reforms. We did bring about a new marketing act and shared with the state governments. We did say that the MSP, which should be increased, and alongside the announcement of the MSPs, there should be also a broad-based procurement. And as you know, this year the scheme called PM Asha was announced by the budgetary announcement. And today we have a broad-based procurement. Unlike before, where paddy and wheat were the only core procured commodities, today we have all the cereals, we have the pulses and the oil seeds. And I think we see today that as high as 45 lakh tons of pulses and oil seeds were procured, which is an all-time high. So I would say there are several recommendations in the post-production, including, for example, setting up retail agriculture markets. Because the small and marginal farmers can't approach the APMCs. They needed a market closer to their farm gate. And likewise, on the production side, just to be brief, that we have now been working on improving the pulses, the oil seeds, and the millets. Because all the time we were focusing only on the irrigated areas. We wanted to bring focus on the rain-fed systems, which is a dominant system. And we are seeing that thanks to the policy promotion, all these three sectors have now started growing.
Okay, some of those recommendations have been put into action. But Amit, let me ask you this. As Mr. Dalwai was pointing out, that there have been recommendations that have been made on MSP, which have now been taken forward by way of policy action and policy intervention. What has transpired on the ground, though, is a very different picture, both in terms of procurement as well as in terms of the promise of MSP, which is inconsistent and patchy in different parts of the country. Now, in your assessment, the kind of price collapse that we've seen as far as rural incomes are concerned, what would be the short-term ways or short-term interventions required to bridge that at this point in time?
So I think while there has been conversation about MSP and the rollout, I do welcome the policy initiatives that the government has taken, because MSP and supporting the farmers in the short to medium run is right now absolutely critical given the level of indebtedness we see. But in the long run, I think there is a need to look at a shift from a very staple crop-oriented economy where farmers are dependent on to high-value agriculture commodities. So, in my opinion, currently there are three types of MSP recommendation which the government has given, and I think various states are trying it out. I would say still we need to wait to see the results of all of those three coming out. But I think what remains to be done is a shift of moving to high-value agriculture, such as looking at vegetables and fruits, because in our calculation it will give a boost of almost 1 lakh per hectare to the farmers, as against current 41,000 rupees per hectare they get from the staple crops.
Well, on that note, we'll take a break, but when we return, we continue our conversation on what we can do to ensure that the promise of doubling farm income by 2022 is realized. That and more on Eye on India.